Hello everyone, welcome to a new vid for War Commander for Beginners, and this episode will be on the workshop because I'm getting a lot of questions on how to use the workshop, what tech to use, and so on. So, let's cover the workshop. Let's start with the general structure of the workshop. So you've got the uniques, Gen 4, 3, 2, 1, limited, the special forces, and the legacy units. Every unit, as you can see, you can open up. So let's take, for example, the Devout. You can open it up, then you can add a schematic, add a new design, and then you will see an empty page of the unit with all of its possible text. You will also see below that there's an advanced view and a simple view, but that doesn't really matter. You will also see the capacity. So every tech is a capacity of 500, and the capacity actually gets higher if the level of the unit is higher. So at level 1 you will only have 500 possible capacity, at level 5 you will get 1000, and at level 10 you will get 1500. And what does that mean? It means that at level 1 you can only use one component, at level 5 you can use 2 components, and at level 10 you can use 3 components. And this tech makes your unit a lot better. Now, to explain this even more in depth, let's go over the Devout and its specific techs. So you've got a breach grenade and you've got a gauntlet. For your arms, for your back, you've got the charge tactics and you got the blast brave. And for your legs, you got implaceable advance, and you've got armored greaves. Now, everyone always wonders, what tech should I use? Well, in some cases it is personal. For example, in this one, if you want all your Devouts to be able to concuss the enemy infantry, then you will need to add a bunch of breach grenades. But if you don't really need that, if you only want a few to have those grenades, then you can also have a majority of your Devouts to have the heavy gauntlets, which means that they take less sustained damage. It's very important that it's just sustained damage. And as we already saw in episode 8, I believe, we went over every type of damage. Now, sustained damage is the type of damage that is very rapid and very fast. So the Devout itself is sustained damage. So if you want your Devouts to be good against enemy Devouts, then you could use this tech because it takes less sustained damage. If, for example, I don't know, Sunder or some area damage type or burst damage type hits your Devout, it really is not going to matter if you have this on, yes or no, because they have a different type of damage. So you can choose between those two. Now, for the back is fairly similar. If you want your Devout to get stronger and more damage, get a bigger damage boost while it gets hit, then you need to use the charge tactics. If you want your unit to take less area damage, for example, like I said about Sunder, if you want him to do 30, an amount % less damage, then you need to put this on. And thirdly, the gold tech. You can do it the same yet again. So if you want your units to get 90%, well, if it's max 90% reduced damage when you just spawned it and it just gets damage for the first time, then you need to take this tech. If you want him to get less burst damage, then you need to get this tech. I advise people, if they want to just rush a base and deal as much damage as possible and then let it die, use this tech. For example, in PvP, this is going to be the most important tech because you spawn it, it immediately gets damage, and for the first 7 seconds it's damage free. So for PvP I advise you this damage. For PvE perhaps you can use this damage. And covering all of these, you can clearly see if you want to make your Devout a tank, then you need to use the gauntlets, the blaze blast, blast, and the greaves. Then it will have less burst, less area, and less sustain damage. So it's gonna be basically a tank. If you want your units to concuss the enemy, then you will need to add this. If you want it to have extra damage, add this one. And if you want it just to be the tank in the beginning of the battle, then you use this one. Another very popular unit at the moment is the controller. So let's do the same for the controller. You add a new design, and then you can see the 3 components. You go over them. Those are all the components. And let's get more in depth and see what they are. So you got the thermite drones and you've got the EMP drones. Speaks for itself. If you want extra fire damage, use the thermite. If you want them to shock, then use the shock drones. Thermite drones will be very effective against infantry, and while shock drones will just shock about any tank. So since this is level 1, we can explain this further. Every tech has levels. So if you can see, this one is level 6, this one is just level 1. So the way in the beginning, what you want to do is pick out a tech. So you see fire, you see shock. I chose fire in the beginning, but let's say I will want to choose shock. Then you upgrade it. You press upgrade and you see every level on the top, starting level 1, and the max is level 6. The time obviously takes longer every level you get. So the first one takes about 10 hours, and as you can see, level 1 gives 1 second of shock, and level 6 gives 3.5 seconds of shock. The next one, long range antenna and the signal hijack. Long range antenna just increases damage dealt at long range. So the longer the drone travels, the bigger the range is, the damage is gonna be. And then the hijacking one, it turncoats enemy drones of the Cerberus and the Hive, which actually can be very effective defending your base. Within a range of 200, the Hive drones or the Cerberus drones will fight for you instead of the enemy. Some people in PvP use the Hive, so it could be fairly useful actually. And the third, the gold tech, again it says the double launch and defensive posture. The defensive posture speaks for itself. The unit will not take greater damage than the percentage of their health. So in this example, you will need at least 3 shots to kill the controller. And the double launch means that, like, without the tech, the controller just shoots 2 drones at once, bam bam, and that's done. Like, it shoots very rapid, 2 drones, and it's done. And very often 1 drone actually already kills the unit, so you don't really need the second one. The second one goes to waste. With this tech, it slows down the fire rate. Like, it slows down the chance that both drones will just go to one target and the second drone is useless. So with this, there is actually a possibility where 1 drone goes to 1 unit and the second drone goes to the other unit. Now, what to use? Like, I already hear you people wonder, like, well, okay, yeah, this is all good explanation, but what to use? Personally, if you want to fight infantry, go for the fire tech. If you want to get extra shock, go for the shock. But very often, the controller already one-hits a unit. So that's why I go for fire damage. Just in case, I don't know, my base gets attacked by Adam or by Romero, that they will do extra large damage on those types, on the infantry types. That's why I pick thermite drones. For the second one, a mixture is honestly the best. So if your towers are fully maxed out and you have a bunch of capacity in them, and let's say you will, or you want to fit 2 controllers in there, then it might be clever to get 1 for the range and 1 for the enemy Cerberus. That way you got the advantage of both of them. In the towers, of course, the range gets plus 50%. So on top of that, like the drones are gonna travel even further, so the maximum damage is gonna be even harder. That's why I love putting them in my towers. If the enemy attacks with the hive, then within 200 range those drones will fight for you, so you don't really have to worry about that. Can also be very useful to put in the towers. So for that one, personally I prefer the long range better, but you can use both. It kind of goes, it's fine either way. And for the last one, I found that PvP, it's better to use the defensive posture, and for PvE it's better to use this one, because units are already one hit. You don't really need the overkill. Like, you don't want the overkill. You want those drones to attack as many as possible units that you can. So that's why this is better. In PvP, like, people always attack with crazy strong units, so that's why it doesn't really matter. Both drones can hit one target because it's not gonna die immediately. And that's why maybe you want this one, just in case your tower is dead, then they still need 3 shots to kill your unit. So that's pretty much it about the controller. A third very popular unit is the Ace. Now the Ace is interesting as well because you have Warpaint. Warpaint is completely useless. It just makes your unit look cool, but it doesn't actually do anything. Like, it doesn't give defense, it doesn't give attack, it just makes it look cool and very colorful. You know, like, if you want that, then go for the Warpaint. It's pretty cool, but kind of useless. Now again, bronze, silver, gold, and let's go over them. So the first one is the controls, and it kind of just regulates the speed. So if you prefer the turning speed, go for that. If you just prefer the movement speed, go for that. Personally, I don't really have a preference. I just go for movement speed because I want my aces to just go to the target very fast, and once they are already at the target, if they turn a little slower, I don't really care. As long as they get to the destination as fast as possible, I'm happy. So that's why I use movement speed. Now for the payload, it's the bombs itself. You can choose, do you want splash or do you want a napalm effect? Now this one deals extra fire damage, so if you want to use your aces, especially against towers again, then use the napalm one. If you want your units to do extra splash, then use this one. Personally, I prefer the splash damage, so that's why my aces are gonna have extra splash damage. Just for them to attack a base, they hit a building, then the building next to it gets destroyed as well. That's why I'm using extra splash. And then for the gold one, you got the explosion on death, and you've got the reload speed. Both are actually fine, but personally I prefer the reload speed, so my units drop more bombs while they're at the base. You can also use the explosion on death if you're, like, especially maybe PvP, if you already know, okay, my aces are gonna destroy over the base and I want them to deal damage while they crash, then this is actually the better tech. Like, it literally says itself, kamikaze training, so you expect your aces to die. In the other one, you expect your aces to survive and just drop as many bombs as possible, and that's why I prefer the reload speed. So all that being said, I think this is enough for this episode. I will have to make a part 2 because not everything is said in about the workshop. So hope this was helpful, hope it was useful. Please like, please subscribe, and I see you guys next time.